Very good. Let's start from the assessment process, people. This assessment process will start from 1st September. This assessment process will start from 1st September. Prior to that, we had assessment procedure same as reassessment procedure. Yes. So before September, whatever you did in reassessment will be the same guidelines to be followed. Whatever you do after September, you'll follow the new guidelines. You'll follow the new guidelines. Yes or no? Yes. What are the new guidelines, people? Income tax says after the search is initiated or the books or the documents are seized, the assessing officer shall, after obtaining a prior approval from ADIT, JCIT or additional DIT or JDIT, issue a notice to the person requiring him to file the return of income. A same process as reassessment. In reassessment also I told you to file return. Yes, the only problem is reassessment I told you to file return for 1 year. Here I am going to file you return for block years, Here is where income tax says I am asking you to now file a return of 6 years preceding the assessment year, relevant to the previous year in which the search was concluded or requisition was made. People, if my search is happening on 20th January 25, I will ask you to file returns for I will ignore 24-25. 6 years prior to this, meaning 23-24, 22-23, 21-22, then 20-21, 19-20 and 18-19. 6 AYs preceding the AY relevant to the PY in which the search was concluded. My previous year is remove AY 25-26. So that is PY. That's what I told, no? Obviously. Six AY preceding the AY into the PY in which search was concluded. Preceding the PY in which the search was concluded. Relevant to the PY in which search was concluded. When was the search concluded? 24-25. 24-25 का assessment year. उसके 6 years preceding. Let's put it in AY terms. People, your year of search is 24-25. Your assessment year is, can you take 25-26? No. So you remove 25-26. Previous 6 years will become AY 20. That is what I wrote. PY, AY. Yes. So you will reopen cases for PY 6 years. You will reopen cases for PY 6 years, excluding the year of search. Agreed? Agreed. Yes. So the first thing I'm coming and saying is I'll ask you to file a return for the previous year, for the preceding previous 6 years. But I will also ask you to file return for the current year in which search was concluded, requisition was made, and ending on the date of execution of the last of authorization, that is the date recorded in Panchnama of the search, actual receipts of books, assets by the authorized officer. Meaning, people, now when I'm asking you to file return, I'll not ask you to file return for the last 6 PYs. I'll also ask you to file return for the current PY only for the period 1st April 24 to 20 January 25 to 20 January 25. I'll also ask you to file a return for this year. Now you may come and ask, Rahul, year is not over. How do I file return? They will say till date whatever transactions you did. For that you file the return. This is like an ad hoc return. Because now we are calling it as block assessment. Yes or no? Yes. For you to note down, people, For you to note down example. For you to note down example, if the search is concluded on 20th January 25, take out your post-its. Take out your post-it. If search is concluded on 20 Jan 25. Yes, Ramna. Yes, block assessment will require you to file all returns once again. Either that, or if your assessment has closed and you have not appealed it further, then you will take that income also into consideration and file the revised return. Yes, people, what is it? If the search is concluded on 20th January 25, if the search is concluded on 20th January 25, return to be filed for return to be filed for previous year 18-19 to previous year 23-24. If search is concluded on 20th January 25, return to be filed for previous year 18-19 to previous year 23-24 and 1st April 24 to 20th January 25. 1st April 24 to 20th January 25. 20th January 25. Agreed? 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 Yes. Now people, how do you know this is 20th January 25? Basically the date on which the search is concluded. How do you know that the search is concluded? Officer will issue something called as Panchnama. Panchnama is like an affidavit. It's like an affidavit. The affidavit will basically come and say, I am hereby mentioning the fact that I have done a raid on so and so person on so and so date. The raid is concluded on so and so after signing by this person. And I will have to sign this Panchnama. I'll have to sign this Panchnama. The moment I sign this Panchnama, the search will close. The search will close. After you sign the Panchnama, can the officer look for some more data? No. He will now have to get a second approval. He'll now have to get a second approval, and therefore Panchnama is the last thing which gets signed. The moment you sign the Panchnama, nothing further can happen. Nothing further can happen. Correct? Correct? Yes. So 6 years plus the current year. 6 years plus the current year. The person shall furnish his return on income within the specified period in the notice, not exceeding 60 days. Not exceeding 60 days. Setting forth his total income, including the undisclosed income for the block period. Including the undisclosed income for the block period. In case of any delay, it shall not be deemed as a return furnished under 139. It will be rather deemed as a return furnished under 142(1), which means you will be liable for late filing fee plus 234A interest. 234A interest. People, one thing to specially notice in this is that they are coming and saying, Rahul, when you file the return, I am giving you an option. I am giving you an option to voluntarily come forward and disclose your undisclosed income. Meaning, even though raid happened and you know these many assets were seized, if you itself come clean by filing a return and disclosing whatever is your undisclosed income, I will let you go. I will let you go. As you read further, they will come and say, boss, if you have itself voluntarily disclosed your income, which you had not reported earlier, I will levy smaller penalty. If after I asked you to file return, still you did not disclose, and I find it during assessment, I will levy higher penalties. So this is an option given to the assessee to come and say, boss, I have done a raid on you. You know you are trapped. Come forward and disclose it yourself. I will let you go. If now also you show your ego and you don't disclose information, if I catch hold of it, you are definitely paying higher penalties. Yes. So this was block assessment introduced with a simple intention that I still want to give an assessee an option, become a little more user friendly thing. That is what Nirmala Tai's contention was. When she brought search itself, she came and said, boss, I know people are being harassed in a search process. At the end of the day, I would like to give them an opportunity to come forward and come clean also. Correct, not correct? Correct. So I am giving an option to also disclose your undisclosed income. Be mindful about it. Yes. Second, notes, no revised return can be filed against a return which is furnished under this section, because you're filing a return in consequence of search. There is no timelines given for revised return. Yes. Imagine search started, assessment is going on. During assessment process, you found out that you're going to get trapped. Just to save penalty, now you suddenly file revised return during the assessment process. Can I do it? No. One time return option. One time return option. People, in this whole income tax, what are the cases which cannot file a revised return? Cases where you cannot file a revised return. Obviously, block assessment. Next. Nope.
Our assessment is open.
Nope. Nope. See. So, updated return. When we did updated return, I told you updated return cannot be updated again. Cannot be updated again. Any 1 year updated return can be filed only once. Cannot be updated again. Cannot be. In that whole 24 months, you can only file one updated return per year. For each assessment year, only one updated return can be filed. If you file it within 12 months, you'll get 125% ka penalty. If you pay it within 24 months, 12 to 24, it'll be 150% of penalty. You cannot come and say 12 I'll file one and 24 I'll file one. One updated return per year. Clear? Yes. Two things where you cannot file revised return, people, is updated return and your search block return. Search and block return. Yes. I'm just putting out summaries and all for you people. Please keep noting out the summaries, because in exam these are all things which can tested on theory level. Please be very careful about this. Yes. Yes. Note number 2. Any return furnished under this section shall not be processed by CPC under 143(1). It shall be directly picked up for assessment by AO, because it's a search case. It's a search case. I have different tax rates on this. This whole return itself is being provided for the purpose of disclosing on raid. So I don't need any arithmetical errors and all. I have to not process it under 143(1). Yes. Now, what do you mean by undisclosed income, people? The income which you can voluntarily disclose. What and all can you disclose? Undisclosed income includes any kind of money, billions, jewelry, articles or valuable things. What is wrong today? Undisclosed income includes any kind of money, bullions, jewelry or other valuable articles or things, any expenditure or any income based on any entry in the books of accounts, documents or transaction where such items represent income property which has not been or would not have been disclosed. I have expenses or incomes which I have not disclosed earlier. I would like to disclose that right now. Any kind of expense, exemption, deduction, allowance claimed which is found to be incorrect in respect of the block period. When I originally filed the return, I claimed some exemptions. Now, when I am reporting, I am withdrawing the exemption because I know I have cheated them. Yes or no? Yes. A simple example I can itself give you, people, is that, for example, there is a trust which would have claimed exemptions. Imagine a raid happens on a charitable organization and they found out that the whole operations are illegal. Now I'm giving you an option to file a return. When you file a return, you can file a return without claiming the exemption, reporting the correct income. Whatever you put earlier versus what you put right now will be called as unexplained income. Or let's say put it as undisclosed income. In simple words, undisclosed income is income as per this return minus income as per original return. If you filed it. If you did not file it, then everything is undisclosed income. Yes or no? Yes. So you can put a small line here. Undisclosed income means Yes, da.
So in the no return which the assessee is currently filing, he is given an option to disclose this income which was found in RAID also.
Yes.
What if I don't disclose anything and file the same return? There will not be any undisclosed.
What if you don't?
What if I don't disclose any additional item?
How will you file? Due dates are already closed, right? For the current year. Search process, as we go forward, I'll tell you that when search happens, whatever years you have under discussion will become abated. You cannot file any further returns. The block itself will be closed for you. During assessment process, if I make a further disallowance, that disallowance will have a higher penalty, because that will also be called undisclosed income only, but will now carry higher penalty because you did not voluntarily disclose. So undisclosed income means income as per block minus income as per return. Which return? Original return plus amount added by AO during assessment. People, which assessment? Block assessment. Block assessment. Yes, people, if you already it's done an original assessment, you are given an option to file the return. You were supposed to file return with the disallowance because you have not made a further appeal. Correct or not correct? If you have not made a further appeal, your job was to show the total income as per return is including assessing officer disallowance also, because you have accepted it. Yes, I am talking about all those additions which are made by the officer during block process. During block process, the only difference is, people, the difference between this and this will carry lower penalty and this will carry higher penalty. This will carry higher penalty. We have a computation model, people. I show it in the bottom. I'm just disclosing it to you. Clear? Yes. Yes. Next. Can we? Yes. Abatement of pending proceedings. Income tax is coming and saying all pending assessments, reassessments falling within the block, which means last 6 years plus current year shall stand abated. Abated meaning closed. They will be assumed as not valid. This also includes any reference made to TPO or an order passed under 92CA. Any assessment will get abated. They will completely stop proceedings. Because now the whole assessment will be done by assessing officer. Exception: if the assessment is undertaken under this chapter and the same is pending when a subsequent search or acquisition is also initiated, the first assessment would be completed before assessment of subsequent search can be commenced. If the timeline for completing the assessment for subsequent search is less than 3 months, the period will be extended to 3 months from the end of the month in which the first assessment has happened. Comedy, what is happening is they are coming and saying, Rahul, I first did a search for which a block is going on. I have now been given time to pass in block order. During that assessment process, the officer which was there, which did the search, he found out that there is some more assets which are missed out. And so he again did a second raid in that same 12 months itself, mentally harassing the assessee. Now during the second raid, he found some more items. That items will come back to the officer. In that case, can the person come and say, Rahul, last 6 years of a block will become invalid? No. In that case, they came and said, Rahul, both are search only. Do one thing. Complete this assessment and then start the next assessment. During that time, if for the next assessment you are going to have less than 3 months, you will automatically get an extension of 3 months. Yes or no? Yes. Although normally speaking, people, a person should not have continuous raids happening. That is like weird. Officer itself will not agree. Yes, your boss should agree to the fact that 2 raids are supposed to be happening. Very risky thing. Generally will not happen. But they're putting a safety cushion. Clear? Yes. Second. However, if the proceedings initiated or passed under section 158 BC is annulled in any appeal, or other legal proceedings, the abated assessments or reassessment shall stand revised within the date of receipt of order of such annulment of PCAT or CAT. For example, people, I am now starting a block process. Because of which my original assessments are invalid. Yes, but problem what happened? No, the person who was starting the process did not give me proper notice, and therefore I filed a writ petition and came and said, sir, raid itself invalid, please close the raid off. Luckily, what happened? Court also allowed. In a case where court has allowed this, can the person come and say, sir, raid also invalid, original assessment also invalid? No. In that case, original assessment will become valid again. They will stand revived on that day when the court order comes. In that case, you will start the revival. And if you remember, when we did assessment procedure, people, I told you that any such thing happens when a revival happens after a raid. If you have time limits of less than 60 days to complete the assessment, it will automatically get extended to another 60 days. You'll be given 60 more days for you to complete your assessment after the court order comes back. Correct? Yes or no? Yes, that is what is happening. Yes. Now, if I've launched the assessment, people, if I've launched the block assessment, what is the process? Income tax says the assessing officer shall basis the return furnished, issue a notice under section 143(2) and propose to determine the total income, including extra income which he wants to add. If you're giving 143(2), you're technically giving notice of assessment, which means, people, if I forget to give 143(2), block will become invalid. Like we said, 292 BB. Giving a notice is, even if you give late, it's okay, but giving a notice is mandatory. Yes or no? Yes. Second, post determination of total income, assessment order shall be passed determining the tax payable by the person. Pretty obvious. The notes are more critical, people. The order passed under section 153 BC shall not be appealable before DRP. They are now clarifying to you very clearly, saying, Rahul, even if a TP adjustment happens, you cannot go to, you can only go to CIT appeals. You cannot go further. Which then brings the fact that search can also be appealed, but not with DRP. It can be appealed with CIT appeals. Second, the total income other than the undisclosed income of the current previous year in which the search or acquisition was conducted shall not be assessed under this chapter. The same will be assessed under normal assessment procedure. Meaning, they'll come and ask you to file return for the current year of April to January, but they will not tax it as if it is search income. They will tax it as if it was normal income. The reason I'm telling this is because, people, under this chapter, like I told, search income is going to be taxed at higher rates. I cannot tax your normal income itself as higher rates. Yes or no? Yes. So we're coming and clarifying that I want you to file return of the current year, but it is only for my reference. It has nothing to do with my block. My block is literally only last 6 years. Correct. Next. Order for the block can only be passed by the AO not below the rank of DCIT or ACIT or DDIT or ADIT after obtaining a prior approval from JCIT or JDIT. Meaning, inspectors cannot file a assessment. It has to be done by AOs like AC or DC after getting approval from JC. Understand, people, for me to do a raid, I need approval from CIT, but for me to pass an order, I need approval from JCIT. Luckily, if my JCIT is empowered by board, then he can give approvals for both. Agreed. Yes or no? Yes, that is what the procedure is. Finally, when do you complete your block assessment, people? Income tax says the assessment for the block period will have to be passed within 12 months from the end of the month in which the last of the authorization of the requisition was made. So when the search completes, after the search gets completed, within 12 months from the end of the month, the return assessment order has to be filed. Understand, here it is month. Normally we saw it as end of the year. For 148 also it was end of the year. For return, for original it was end of the assessment year. Here it is end of the month. And again, if it's a TP case, you'll get additional 12 months. Yes. So standardly it is 12 everywhere, people. It is 12 everywhere, just that the period changes. For original it is end of the assessment year. For reassessment it is end of year in which the notice is issued, and block it is end of the month in which the search is completed. That is what we wrote, no? 1819 to 2324 plus 2425 till the date of search. What did you write in your chart, ma? What did you write? You wrote 1819 to 2324, which is how many years? Plus, I told you will also file return for April to 20th January, which is current year. So current year plus 6 years. Till the rate of completion of search. Yep. Great. Last few things, people. Notes: the period from the date of search to the requisition of maid till the date on which the books documents are handed over to the assessing officer will be excluded for the purpose of computing limitation period. This period should, however, not exceed 182 days. Meaning, after I get the assets seized, I need to transfer it to my officer. That transfer should happen within 182 days. The transfer should happen within 182 days maximum. 60 days is the minimum period, 182 is the maximum period. Whatever time it takes for this transfer will not be considered for the purpose of my 12 months. Will not be considered for the purpose of my 12 months. I will get extension to that extent. I will get extension to that extent. Second, after the exclusion period is over, if the time limit to pass the order expires before the end of the month, then the such remaining period will be extended to the end of the month. To the end of the month. So if the expiry is happening and I am not able to complete my assessment and there is time till the end of the month, then I will get time till 30th of the month, 30 or 31st of the month, 30 or 31st of the month. Yes or no? Yes. This is your new block assessment procedure. This is your new block assessment procedure. Yes, yes, yes. Now that I've done my assessment, people, what is my job? I will now compute my tax payable, and then I'll go back to my officer and I go back to my assessee and come and say, this is what I wanted to pay tax on. This is what I wanted to pay tax on. Tell me, how will you like to pay it back? Tell me, how will you like to pay it back? That is what the next part is. Yes, period of retention. Period of retention. Income tax says, Rahul, when an assessment is going on, how long can you keep the books? How long can you keep the books? Books of accounts, documents seized and returned should be done within a period of 30 days from the date of assessment order. When I complete my assessment within 30 days, the books should go back to the assessee to start his normal business. However, the same can be retrieved for any longer period after recording the reasons for doing so and by approving by who? Same people who approved your search. If the person legally entitled to the books of documents wishes to object the extension provided, he can file an application and complain to the boss of the bosses, which is CBDT, requesting for the retrieval of the books, and the CBDT can decide accordingly. CBDT can decide accordingly. Correct? Correct? Yes. What happens to assets? What happens to assets? Income tax says, where the person makes an application to the assessing officer within 30 days from the end of the month in which the assets were seized, requesting for the release of such assets. After satisfactorily explaining the nature and the source of assets seized, then the assets will be released within a period of 120 days from the date on which the search was concluded, after meeting all existing liabilities of the person. Yes, so I need to make an application within 30 days. After that application is made, I will compute all the tax payable and then release all your assets within 120 days. Within 120 days. How will the assets be released? The first order of priorities, all existing liabilities under Income Tax Act or Black Money Act will be discharged. Then any liability determined on completion of assessment of the search will be discharged. Order of priority: first to take away the money which is seized, even if the money is legal money. Even if the money is legal money. Second, if you don't have enough money, sell all the assets and realize the money. Sell all the assets and realize the money. Now you may come and ask, Rahul, why are you using legal money? A very simple, if you're going to use the legal money, you will send back the illegal assets. You will send back the illegal assets, which means in exchange of using your legal money, I am sending you back your illegal assets. Point is the same. Point is the same. At the order of the day, I want to understand how much tax to pay. How much tax to pay. And one thing which I've told you earlier also, people, it is only black money as long as tax is not paid. The moment tax is paid, it becomes legal money. It becomes legal money. So today I'm discharging all the tax, and tomorrow everything else becomes legal. Everything else becomes legal. So technically, the moment the tax liability has been determined, even the asset has become legal asset. Even the money has become legal asset. So first you'll use money, then you'll use assets, Correct, not correct? Correct, not correct? Yes. Now question, people. I am coming and saying, Rahul, I have seized assets worth 5,000 crores. I only had a tax payable of 1,000 crores. I am going to return back 4,000 crores worth of assets, which I kept with myself. Who am I? Department. I withheld assessee's assets for such a long time, because of which he was not able to carry out operations. I am also responsible to now pay him interest. Correct, not correct? Hey, but will I pay him interest for the whole period? I would like to pay interest only for delay beyond 120 days. People, normally I had authority to keep it till 120 days. If I keep it more than 120 days is where the problem starts. So I will give him interest only for after 120 days at the rate of any excess money or assets remaining after discharging the above liabilities shall be returned to the assessee along with the simple interest at the rate of 0.5% or part thereof, calculated as follows. Total amount of money seized, add proceeds which the officer got from the sale of the assets, minus whatever money which is utilized for your payment of taxes. Whatever money you have will be levied at 0.5%, will be date immediately following the expiry of 120 days from the rate of seizing the asset till the rate of completion of assessment. I will give him a 0.5% interest. Yes or no? Yes. This is the case law which I was talking about, people. The question which we asked. The case law coming and saying assets seized during search can be sold and adjusted in pursuance of 132B only when there exists a liability or liability is determined. When the liabilities are determined only on completion of assessment, hence demand can be raised and recovery can be initiated only after such date. Applications made for early sale of assets seized and adjustment of the same is not tenable. Yes, like I said earlier also, just because you file an application and disclose me the source, I will not give you back the asset. I need to know how much tax you are supposed to pay, for which I will keep your assets even now. And give it to you only after assessment is closed. And I have utilized the amount. Agreed. Yes. Last final thing, people. I am talking about undisclosed income of any other person. Hey, understand, during search process, it happened, no, the case of Sri Krishna Limited. Yes, understand, I am doing search on Ram Bharose and I found assets worth Sri Krishna. What is my responsibility? I need to give this to my other officer. The other officer will then do the raid on Sri Krishna and then give the assets to his assessing officer for the purpose of doing assessment. Hey, same logic, people. If assessing officer has found books which is not Ram Bharose's but it is Sri Krishna, assessing officer will transfer the books to Sri Krishna Limited for the purpose of him completing his assessment also. Yes, where assessing officer is satisfied that the undisclosed income belongs, pertains, relates to any other person, then such monies, bullions, jewelry, valuable articles or other things, assets, expenditure, books, documents, any other information contained shall be handed over to the assessing officer having jurisdiction over such other person. I found the assets, I am giving it off to him because he will do the assessment. The jurisdictional officer on the receipt of the above shall proceed on the other person in accordance with the provisions of this chapter. Matlab, now after he receives the assets, he can start assessment procedure. The block period for such person will be the same as determined for the first person on such requisition was made. On whom the requisition was made. Assessment or reassessment covered under 158 BD shall be completed within 12 months from the end of the month in which the notice to file return is issued to the assessee for filing the return. Additional 12 months will be given if you are going for a TPO case. Will be done for going for a TPO case. Clear? Yes. Simple, straightforward, logical understandings. Any doubt? Yes. This brings me to the last question, people, where I'm coming and saying, Rahul, asset seized, order passed. I need to compute how much to pay tax. The new section introduced for that is called as section 153BB. 153 double B, where this section comes and tells you how much tax to be paid. How much tax to be paid? People, a simple question. I am now filing a return. Originally, I filed a return for 1000 crores. In the search, I filed a return for 5000 crores. During assessment, he made it 6000 crores. He will ask me to pay tax on 6000 minus 1000, which is 5000 crores. Extra 4000 crores also he'll ask me to pay tax because I voluntarily disclosed, and the extra 1000 also he'll ask me to pay tax because he found it. The only difference is the extra 1000 he found will be higher penalty. The amount I disclosed will be lower penalty. At the end of the day, my undisclosed income is the whole 5000 crores. Agreed, not agreed? Yes, that is the formula, people. For the total income to be determined for the block period, the total income will be determined as follows. For the past assessment years, income declared in the return filed under 139 or 142(1) or 148 what I filed as my return, or for the current previous year, income determined basis entries recorded in books, other documents maintained in the course of the date of authorization. People, current year I asked you to file return for April to October, for April to January. For that, income is yet to be determined. What will they do? They'll prepare an ad hoc statement by using the actual data in the books. People, both of these information are legal incomes to be taxed at normal rates of tax. Agreed. Plus any additional income assessed during 143(3), 144, 147, 153A, 153C prior to the date of search. People, assessing officer itself has made a disallowance during my original assessment, reassessment. Are all those undisclosed incomes? No, because it was not during search, it was before search. For that also, tax rate will be normal tax rate. Plus any additional income voluntarily disclosed by the return. I now disclosed from 1000 crores to 5000 crores. Extra 4000 crores is undisclosed income, will be taxable at a special rate of 60%, same as 115 BBE, unexplained income. Yes, plus any undisclosed income which is determined by the officer during assessment will also be now liable for additional tax of 60%. This is the first time where search has now become taxable for higher rates of undisclosed incomes. Until last year, when you did a search and any tax was determined in a search, it was taxable at the normal rates. Normal rates being same as slabs. From current year, it is now going to be taxed at a higher rate of 60%, even if you voluntarily disclose it, because it was only identified during search process. The only thing which you will be getting as a benefit is lower. Last item, previous year income shall not include any international transactions or STT. Such income shall be considered in other assessments made under other provisions of the Act. When you're doing current year data, you will not do transfer pricing check on it. Because the year is yet to be closed. While determining the undisclosed income, any kind of salary, interest, commission, bonus or remuneration paid to non-working partners shall not be allowed as deduction. People, is this something you don't know, or you know? You don't know. Non-working partners only salary is not allowed. Interest is allowed. Here is a case where I'm coming and saying interest will get permanently disallowed for non-working partners. Working partners, everything allowed as per 40B. Agreed? Yes. Second, any provisions of unexplained income and transfer pricing provisions shall apply, and references to those financial year in those sections shall be construed as references to previous year. The unexplained income chapter which we learned, whatever provisions were there, same provisions will apply here also. If any of the above income determined in the previous year is a loss, people, income tax will say, forget the loss, I'm not giving it to you. Those years will become zero. Meaning, if you have an income, take the income. If you have a loss, forget the loss. So if I have 6 years, people, imagine year number 1 is a loss, I will ignore the loss. Imagine year number 2 is an income, I will take the income. Can I take year 1 and set off with year 2? Not allowed. It ignored off. It will be ignored off. But understand, I am only talking about those losses which are identified during search. Meaning, in my original return itself, I had a loss. In my original second year return also, I had an income. I had set off those two. Can I do it? Perfectly allowed. Perfectly allowed, because I am setting off legal loss against legal income, allowed as deduction. Allowed as deduction. People understand. Imagine if I have a loss in year 1 and year 2 I have undisclosed income. Can I set off my loss against undisclosed income? Can I set off my loss against undisclosed income? If you remember the chapter of set off, last topic of set off, we learned that when you have any income offered to tax during search process, no expenses, exemption, losses can be allowed against those. Yes or no? Yes. Any brought forward losses or UD of prior years to the block cannot be set off against undisclosed income. These can be carried forward and set off in the assessment years after the block period is over, provided the period of life is still there. Period of life is still there. In simple words, whatever losses I have, I can set off against legal income. I cannot set off against undisclosed income. If you still have some losses pending, treat it same as what you would have done normally. Meaning you will carry it forward and you will set it off in the future years. If at all you have time of 8 years. For example, Honest has a search conducted in the premises on 1st December 24, owing to which assessment of 1920 to 25-26 were reinitiated in the block period. Honest had reported a business profit of 1 crore in his return of income during the block period, while the assessing officer determined an undisclosed income of 3 crores for the same block. For the block I gave 1 crore. Assessing officer gave, meaning extra 2 crores he disclosed, resulting in a total income of 4 crores. Assuming that he had a brought forward loss of 17-18 and 18-19 of 2.5 crores and 1.5 crores, the treatment of loss shall be as follows. Business loss can be set off against a return income of 1 crore because that was legal income. The remaining loss of 1.5 crores shall lapse because 8 years is over. People, had I not got picked up for search, even then this loss would have got lapsed because 8 years got over. Same rules will apply. Similarly, for 18-19, the same will be available for set off only against business income of 26-27, being the last of the 8 years. In case there is no such income in 26-27, that will also get lapsed. Yes or no? Yes. In simple words, people, whatever income you find out during search, keep it as a separate item and tax it separately. Whatever item you find here, you will keep it separately and do it as per your normal operations. Are you clear? Yes. Apu Rahul, why are you doing it differently? Why could you not simply come and say undisclosed income to be taxed separately? Understand, the 60% given to you is the basic tax. You need to add surcharge and cess to it. So they will ask you to accumulate all the income together in order to inflate your income. And if your income goes beyond specified limits, you will be liable for surcharge and cess on original also, revised also. The only thing is the basic tax will be different. Yes or no? Yes. This is what I came and told you. When it comes to block assessment, the total income under block assessment voluntarily disclosed by the person plus additionally assessed by the AO will be taxed as follows. You'll be taxing it at 60% plus surcharge plus cess. The only problem is right now surcharge has not been notified. Income tax is comment told in the section saying surcharge as notified by the board. Which has not yet been notified. By the time your exam comes, surcharge should get notified. Once it gets notified, I will inform it to you. My gut feeling, it will be 25, same as unexplained income, but it is not clarified, so let's not work on it. Yes. Interest and penalty, let's hold this discussion. We'll come back and we'll do it after our breakfast break. Yes. So let's hold the interest and penalty and we'll come back and do it. In simple words, I've already discussed about it. I've come and told you penalty for voluntary disclosure will be less and penalty for assessing officer disclosure will be higher. Yes or no? Yes. Let's cut for a breakfast and then we'll come back and we'll do it. Yeah. Great. Let's start with what is the pending portions, people. We are looking at the topic of search and seizure. I think let's quick a quick summary of what we have done till now. We started with two processes. One is what your search is, the other part is your assessment process. Search process is where we came and discussed about who do you do a search, how do you do a search, what is the process of doing the search, what are the powers you have in the search and everything. In an assessment process, we just came and clarified that when you start an assessment, you're going to do an assessment for a block period with a period of 6 years and the current year. With a period of 6 years and the current year, you will be given an option to file a return and voluntarily disclose whatever incomes you want to disclose. For that income also, there will be a tax liability of 60%. Any extra income which the assessing officer finds out also will have a tax rate of 60%. That is what we discussed till last stage. Yes, yes. Couple of things which is pending, people. The interest and penalty part, where income tax is coming and saying if the return required to be furnished under 158 BC is not furnished within the timeline specified. I'm giving you a timeline of, how much timeline did we give, people? We discussed a timeline of, for filing returns. For filing returns, it was 60 days. I am giving you a timeline of 60 days, not exceeding 60 days, correct? Not exceeding 60 days. In that 60 days, you file a return, great. If you don't file a return, then you will have an implication coming in. The implications now will not be the normal implications, people. It will not be the normal 234A, 234B, 234C, 270 and all. Special implications given by the chapter itself. Special implications given by the chapter itself. The first implication they're coming and saying is, I will put in an interest to you. I'll put in an interest to you, but it will not be the normal interest of 1% as per 234A. I'll have a special interest now of 1.5%. I'll have a special interest of 1.5% per month or part thereof for the period commencing after the due date and ending on the date of completion of assessment. Ending on the date of completion of assessment, you will be liable for a special interest. You'll be liable for a special interest. Yes or no? Yes. Now, what is this on? This is on your tax on undisclosed income. So whatever undisclosed income you have into 60% plus any applicable surcharge plus any applicable cess. On that you will be levying 1.5% of interest because you did not file your returns on time. File your returns on time. Next, with respect to undisclosed income, AO or CATA may also levy a penalty of 50% of the tax payable on the undisclosed income after providing an assessee an opportunity of being heard. So whatever undisclosed income you have, you can also levy a penalty of 50% of tax payable. Notice carefully, it is 50% of tax payable. It is not 50% of income. It is 50% of tax on income. It is 50% on tax on income. So 4,000 crores, I told you, 60% of that will become 2,400 crores. On that cess into 50% will be the final answer. Will be the final answer. However, no penalty will be levied under section 158 FBA, 271 AAD, 271D, DA or E for the block period. For the block period, if the assessee has duly furnished a return under section 158 BC, the tax payable on the basis of such return is paid and the assessee offers the money seized for adjustment against tax payable. Like I said earlier, people. Yes, if you itself voluntarily file a return and disclose your undisclosed income, then you will not be levied penalty. Sorry. You will not be levied penalty. Evidence of tax is paid and furnished along with the return of income. No appeal is filed against the assessment of income voluntarily showed in the return. So if you itself are voluntarily going to put it in the return, then technically you cannot file an appeal. Technically you cannot file an appeal. Whatever tax you pay on that return will be not liable for penalty. Whatever income which is disclosed by the assessing officer during assessment stage, that will be liable for a penalty of 50% of the tax payable. 50% of the tax payable. Agreed? Yes. No interest under section 234A, 234B or 234C or penalty under section 270A will be levied on the undisclosed income because I've already given you a different method. Waiver of penalty is only applicable for income voluntarily disclosed by the assessee in the return file. Any undisclosed income determined by the AO during assessment shall be liable for penalty. You cannot avoid penalty on the amount which assessing officer has disclosed. Any order imposing penalty exceeding 2 lakhs can be passed only by DCIT or ACIT or DDIT or ADIT only with the prior approval of their JCs. And finally, any penalty order issued by an IT authority. Other than an AO shall carry forward such copy of order to the AO as well. Yes. So I'm simply coming and saying you have to pay a penalty. If it is more than 2 lakhs, then it is after approvals. Within 2 lakhs, you can do it yourself. Yes or no? Yes. Time limit to issue penalties, people. If an appeal has been filed before CAT or ITAT, penalty will be put on hold. Hey, can I levy penalty if you have gone for an appeal? No. In that case, I will wait for the order to come back. In that case, I'll wait for the order to come back. End of the financial year in which the AO order was passed, or 6 months from the end of the financial year in which order was received from the PCIT, whichever is later. So if it is appealed filed, then you have to wait for the appeal order to come back, and after the appeal order you can levy a penalty. Only if appeal is in favorable or against you. If the appeal is against you. Yes. Next, if it is any case of revision or rectification, revision of 263 or 264, it is 6 months from the end of the financial year in which the revision order is passed. If it is any other case, then it is end of the financial year in which the penalty initiated is to be passed, or 6 months from the end of the financial year in which the penalty proceedings is initiated. If you initiate the penalty proceedings within 6 months past the penalty order. In simple words, people, today if I have got an assessment order and if I accept the disallowance, assessing officer will pass it within 6 months. If I choose to go for an appeal, in that case he will stay the penalty and wait for order to come back. After the order comes back, it will be within 6 months from the end of the financial year again. Yes or no? Yes, that is what the procedure is when it comes to penalties. Any doubts? No. A simple example for you people, just for you to understand this topic. Imagine a case where what has happened is I have filed a return of income with 100 crores. Assessing officer made a disallowance of 20 crores during original assessment. So my return of income is 100 crores. My 143.3 is 20 crores. I now have a raid which happened. And during raid they asked me to file a return. Yes. Now I should have filed a return for 120 crores, but I filed a return for 150 crores because I voluntarily admitted some undisclosed income. During assessment proceedings, officer also came and said that yes boss, I have some more undisclosed income which you did not report in the income, which totally became 10 crores. Okay, so totally my return right now is 160 crores. 160 crores. Yes or no? Yes. How will this work, Rahul? On these two, you will levy normal tax. On 30, you will levy 60 plus cess. Right now, surcharge is not notified, so I'm ignoring it. 60 plus cess plus. Can I levy penalty? No. Which means on 10 crores, I levy 60 plus 4% into 150%. Add an additional 50. So into 150%. So whatever tax you have plus an additional 50 will be given as penalty. Yes. So the 100% will be for the tax and the 50% will be for the penalty. Agreed. At any stage, if you do not file this return on time, 30 plus 110 will be liable for interest at the rate of 1.5% per month from the due date of filing the return till the date of closure of assessment. Once you get all these things, people, is when you will now know the tax payable. Then you will go back to the assessee and come and say, this is what you're supposed to pay. I have seized so many assets from you. I am first going to use away the money. If I don't have enough money, I will sell all your assets and bring all the money. If I have some excess money with me, I have to give it to you back. 120 days from the date of search. From that day till the date of closure of order and giving you the refund, I'll have to pay you an interest of 0.5% per month or part thereof. Clear? Yes. This is your search and seizure process. To be very honest to you, the amendments are very complex. If you actually try to read the amendments which have come in, you will not see it in the same sequence. Yes, you will see it in a jumbled sequence, a bundled model. No one has any idea how the model is. Yes, it took me almost about 2 weeks to understand the whole process and create a flowchart in the same sequence. This is the most practical way to learn it in the common sense manner. Because you're looking at multiple sections, people. The whole search process is happening under 132. The whole raid block assessment process is happening under 158A. Yes, but under 158 also it is like different sections. 158 BFA comes and talks about interest. 113 talks about your tax. Then check what are the other sections? 153 BB talks about your tax computation. 158 BD talks about disclosures. 158, then you have your 153 BC, which has two sections in it, normal plus 158 BB. You have to take both together in order to understand the whole undertaking assessment process, and then you have your other abatements and other things. Yes, this whole chapter has been jumbled up and complicated way too much. Last time they did this in the reassessment procedure for 148A with 148 and 148 and all. Yes, they've jumbled it up way too much. People are still trying to understand it. Yes, at a certain stage, I am expecting that the income tax department will realign the sections. So that they understand it better for themselves also. Yes, but right now, if you need to read the section from an exam standpoint, this is the most practical sequence. If you understand it in the same sequence, you'll understand things a little better. Yes, avoid reading through your study material, you'll not understand anything. Clear? Yes. Any doubts in the process? Is everyone clear? Ramna, all good? லேப்டாப் திறந்துட்டு அங்க வேலை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காரு பாரு லூசு. சரி, ஓகே. When you talk like this only, no, people respond. இல்லைன்னா ஆன்லைன்ல பேச மாட்டாங்க. Great. Yes, sweet. This ends your process on what is called as your search and seizure problem.